Hey, Rent to Retires, it's Adam Schroeder here with another episode, joined as usual by Zach Lemaster, the founder and CEO of Rent to Retirement. And you may remember the beautiful face and voice that's going to be on this podcast today. That is our Ohio provider, Steve. We're here to talk about his market. So, Steve, thanks for hopping back on with us.
Hey, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. So, if anybody's been watching the news for the last, 30 years, they've seen that there are places in California that are in a drought, that are burning. You hear about, places on the coast being flooded because of hurricanes and tornadoes and all of the things that are happening. And you sent me this article recently where you essentially said, hey, Adam, guess what's not coming to my town?
A natural disaster, right? You're not getting a hurricane off of Lake Erie.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you found and what you sent us and kind of about how this plays into the Akron, Canton, Massillon area that you're in.
So yeah, just stable housing, right? You don't have to worry about a natural disaster coming in and flooding your home or wildfires or things like that. So it's a stable market that we've always talked about. That continues to be that, and I think that kind of reminds people when you see the wildfires in California and you see the hurricanes in Florida, that stuff doesn't happen here, and that's kind of why we have an older housing stock. The age of the homes are a lot older, but they don't get wiped out by anything, so there's no need to replace them.
Yeah, I'm looking here, and it has the top 10 cities, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are in Ohio.
Top 10 cities for what, Adam?
The 6 safest cities from natural disasters with the most homes at the least amount of risk, and 6 of them are in Ohio. Akron is by far the safest of all of them by like almost 2%. They have like 91.1% of the homes are at basically zero risk period of any form of natural disaster. And so it's really ridiculously low, which shouldn't be too surprising based on where it is.
And that also plays into the lower, interest rate or insurance rates that we get on houses here. I know we chatted a little bit before about, insurance prices in Florida, other places. We're usually seeing stuff between $600 and $700 for annual insurance, which is awesome.
Steve, when I first started thinking about a market to invest in, and I think this would be important for some of our audience to listen to, is that's important to point out on, the natural disaster side, because that certainly can be detrimental. That's why you have insurance, but it's also why insurance costs a lot more and it's harder to cash flow. And in addition to that, home prices are much higher and the rent to price ratio is much lower in those areas. So the returns are generally less favorable on a much more expensive home. And I think the argument that people would make on why to invest in some of those coastal areas, we hear it all the time, is they would expect appreciation. Mm-hmm. They're willing to sacrifice some cash flow to buy a more expensive home in hopes that it's appreciating greater. And so while natural disasters like those things are important, I think the key thing to actually talk about when we're looking at why to invest in the growing areas of Ohio that you operate in is the first thing that should come to mind or on most people's minds is the returns. And what's attractive to me is the cash flow numbers, the lower acquisition price or the lower barrier of entry. So, I do want to run through a general deal with you, but we know from working with you, and we've worked with you for 5+ years now. Last year we did over 100 houses together. You exclusively provide inventory and manage them for our community. So we have a great working relationship, and you have a proven track record, which we appreciate. But so people won't find your deals anywhere else outside of Rent to Retirement. But what's attractive to me and why I really like the area is because you can buy houses in that what is it, $120,000 to $150,000, $160,000 price point that have double-digit cash-on-cash return. But what I think would surprise a lot of people is the appreciation that we've actually experienced, especially over the past couple of years. Generally speaking, people think, Ohio's not an area that's appreciating, or it's appreciating very slowly. That's kind of a general assumption for the Midwest. But if you're in the right pockets of areas that are growing, especially some of the markets that you operate in, we're seeing double-digit appreciation. Adam will share those stats with us, but then you can also couple that with buying properties with as little as 5% down that actually are even break even or possibly positive cash flow. Whereas if in other parts of the country, if you put 5% down, you're negative cash flow. So all those things considered, and we have a lot of investors You're our top provider across the country. We did more houses with you than any other builder or rehabber, and that's for a reason. It's because you offer a quality product that has good numbers, and people, don't need $100,000 to get into it. They can put, if they put 5% down, you can be into a house for $10,000-$15,000, right? I mean, some closing costs, and it can be, a solid investment. But I just covered a lot there, so let's break down some of those to understand. Like a typical deal. I just wanted to lay the stage for people. Like a typical deal. Like, why is this? And we started with natural disasters, and yes, that's important. But what's more important is the actual returns and the numbers. So, Adam, give us some appreciation numbers, and then walk us through a typical deal, because I think this will be surprising for people to learn about the appreciation in this area.
Yeah. So now that Zach asked his very short and very singular question, we'll dive into I'm going to compare and contrast two things. One of them's Redfin, one of them's Realtor.com, because they have some data that's from different months, and we can pull their different stuff. So from Redfin, from November, the last data that they've listed is November of 2024. So we're going to go back to November of 2022. And from 22 to 23 in November, they saw a rise of 10.1% year over year. And then from 23 to 24, we saw another 10.4% increase year over year of homes. And then
that's double-digit appreciation per year over the past 2 years, which has generally been a stagnant real estate market for most areas. So there's pockets of the Midwest that are appreciating at over 10% per year. People don't realize that, right?
Yeah. And then we get into, it's actually Rocket Homes, not Realtor, who talks about, they break it down by housing type, bedroom type, that kind. Mm-hmm. And overall, from December to December, Akron was up 15.7%. So December of 2024 was a really good month and for Akron sales. But not only this, we sell 3, 4, 5 bedroom homes, right?
Yes.
We're looking 3 beds appreciated 13.2%, 4 bedrooms appreciated 20.7%, and 5+ bedrooms appreciated at 15% a year. So
I know prices that I'm buying houses are going up considerably. So I can believe those numbers for sure.
Yeah. And so they have their whole little thing about where it is on the buyer seller, who's in the, whose market it is. And it is firmly tilted over towards the seller side in the Akron market, according to Rocket Homes. So it's,
Steve, do you have an idea of why, just to give the audience a better understanding of why things are appreciating in these, is there new jobs being created? Can you lay some foundation of why would someone consider investing in Akron and Canton and Barberton, some of the pockets that you focus on outside of Cleveland that tend to be very, very good investment markets?
Yeah, so I stay south of Cleveland, about 30 minutes. And there's been a ton of job growth with the Amazon fulfillment center being built out and finished. They knocked over the largest mall in the county and put an Amazon fulfillment center. It feels like it goes on for miles when you're driving. Plus then you got, Goodyear, Bridgestone, Firestone, all rubber manufacturers, which bring in a lot of jobs. Then you have the universities in, Akron University, plus a bunch of small D2 schools in Canton. And then the Football Hall of Fame has really done a huge build out around it. They bought hundreds of homes and started making it more like a destination. So they have sports fields, they redid the stadium, so they're having concerts. So they're trying to make Canton like a year-round attraction, not just a 1 week, for the Football Hall of Fame week, which has been really cool to see. And then the infrastructure, just building out on all the highways and stuff like that, is just constant construction and just improving the area, which is awesome to see that, the government's putting that much money back into infrastructure.
Are you saving up for your next property purchase? Connect Invest, in partnership with Rent to Retirement, can help you reach your goal faster. With Connect Invest short notes, you can invest as little as $500 in U.S. real estate projects and earn annualized returns up to 9%, all while keeping your capital flexible. Instead of waiting for traditional savings to grow, put your money to work with fixed-rate returns and short-term options of 6, 12, or 24 months. Maximize your savings and get closer to your next property sooner. Start today at connectinvest.com/RTR.
We've seen a lot of rent growth, I believe, as well. And Adam, I'm sure you could show some stats, but I know that's just one thing we've seen as well. It's just, because of the jobs being created, there's rent growth year after year. And that's one thing that I think people don't pay enough attention to, because when you're looking at pro forma on a property, you're evaluating year one performance. It's really difficult to project in the future unless you're using the wealth calculator, which we make available to everyone for free and on our website, but that allows you to future project. But, even a 4 or 5% increase in rent per year has an exponential increase on your ROI, because, your mortgage is fixed. You're not having the same increase in expenses year after year. Like, taxes are low in Ohio. That's another benefit. Taxes and insurance are very low. It's a landlord-friendly state. It's a tax-favorable state. Like, those things are important to all have an influence on your ROI. But when you have a 4 or 5% increase or greater per year in rents, that has an exponential increase in your ROI, because not everything else is going up at the same rate. So, Steve, walk us through just like your typical deal. A lot of the stuff that you're focusing on, I know maybe single family, some small multi, like what type of neighborhood classes, and tell us more about this typical deal with price points, ROI, things like that.
Yeah. So, typical price point is like 135 to 140 is your single family home. I always make sure I'm in good areas. These are areas that I also invest in, right? So I have 50 or 60 single families or small multis in the Akron Canton area. So if I won't buy personally in that neighborhood, I'm not going to buy the flip in that neighborhood. So that's the first thing I always start off with. And then just making sure all the mechanicals have 10 years of life plus on them. So given like a furnace is, life expectancy is 20 years. If it's older than 10, it's an automatic replacement of it. So that there's a new furnace when the investor buys it. So we always make sure we stick by those rules. It makes rehabbing really simple. Like, hey, if it's past a certain age, it gets replaced. No questions asked. And these areas are B-class areas. Usually dual income, both parents are working. So, these people are bringing in, 40 to 50 grand each. So, which is a good living around here in Northeast Ohio. Might be weird to think if you're in California or something like that, but that's just kind of the standard, both parents work, making a modest income.
90% of real estate investors miss key tax savings by overlooking deductions. Flipping houses, managing rentals, or growing your real estate empire? Make sure you've got experts in your corner, especially when it comes to taxes. That's why we turn to Nevada Corporate Headquarters, the experts who help us reduce taxes and set up our real estate LLCs. With 35 plus years of experience and 17,000 five-star reviews, Nevada Corporate Headquarters helps you manage properties across states, navigate tax laws, and protect your assets, all with a real estate LLC. Visit ncinc.com/RTR to schedule a free real estate LLC formation and tax consultation. Plus, receive a free guide to safeguarding your assets. And I also want to say, a lot of people, when they start thinking about exit strategies in today's market, they're a little worried because, you hear stories of some markets where houses just sit and don't move. And looking it up, the average days on market for the Akron market right now in December, so, wintertime, when everybody's looking to move, it's nice and warm and toasty and everybody's outside in their tank tops, 35 days on market. Dropped from December of the previous year. But even in December, we're looking at 35 days. I think whenever I talked with you in maybe like October, November, you'd only had one property that took over 30 days to rent out of the 100 that we had or something like that. And that one was like 32 or 33 days or something like that.
Yeah, let's talk about leasing times.
Yeah, so leasing times in the winter are always a little more tough, but outside of the Christmas time, we're usually 30 days to have a signed lease, 30 days or less, which is great. I always like those tenants that are planned out too. If they want to sign a lease and move in 3 weeks, I'm like, wow, these people are actually moving out and not in like a hurry. So I always like those leases that they move in a few weeks because it shows a little bit of stability and planning in the family, I think. But yeah, we've done a great job getting them leased out. We have a full team of leasing agents. I think we have 4 now and then one part-time. So we're making sure that they're getting the individual attention to each property. Not like one agent has 40 houses listed and can't keep up with it, right? So this is really nice that they're able to give each individual house and tenants the time they need to onboard them and vet them correctly. So we do 3 times net income, which is big. A lot of people do gross, which isn't what you're taking home. So we do 3 times net, and then we look for a 550 plus in credit score. If they're below 550, we try to request first month, last month, and security deposit, just a little more stability for the owner.
Talk about why you would go down to 550. And we of course know that there's a lot of really good tenants out there that have had some dings on their credit, which it doesn't take much. I just realized I just got hit, by the way. My credits is always kind of teetered in the mid to higher 700s because I'm always using debt, and people think they want this perfect 800 credit score. And anyone that has that, I remind them, like, you're not using your credit enough, right? So, and there's no benefit over 740 for lending, just so everyone's aware. But why would you allow someone that has 550? Well, let me tell my story real quick. I just got hit with I had a Gold Gyms membership like 8 years ago that, and I never got notified about this, but all of a sudden it shows up on my credit, and now it dropped one of my scores, I think on TransUnion, down to like mid 600s, and it was for a $50 charge at Gold. I'm going, what? This is insane. But anyways, the point is like,
protein drinks will get you, man.
Yeah. There's it doesn't take much, right? That's one. And other than that, I've had zero like missed payments, things like that. I keep my credit usage below 30% on the cards and things like that. And that's just one, usually they take the middle score, but why would you take someone that has a 550 credit score?
So you got to check their on-time payments, right? A lot of people don't have even like history of payments. Is another reason they'd have a really low scores, because they just haven't used their credit right. They pay cash for everything. So we check the on-time payments along with that 550 credit score, because we want to make sure we're getting that rent on a regular basis. And then other than that, I mean, that's a big thing we always check is the on-time payments and seeing if they're making enough money. But if they have a 700 credit score and they have 10 grand, they could buy a house with an FHA loan. So it's not like there's not a high barrier of entry to buy a property outside of your credit and having a little bit of money.
Right. So most of these tenants, I mean, just because they have if they've had consistent payments on time, like there's a lot of things that affect credit, like they may not be able to buy a house, right? So like these are your core tenants, and they could be they're both employed, they have good, long-term employment, like no mispay. Those are the things that are important. Credit is one of these things that fluctuates, and you're helping people out as well, that they need housing solutions. And are very committed and dedicated tenants in, because they know that they have limited housing solutions. But I just wanted to point that as
things that, we have a brand or a reputation area of having a nice house. So we get a lot of referrals from tenants we have now. They refer their friends, hey, they're updated, they're nice, their maintenance team will go out and handle the repair if need be. One of those things is just being on time about stuff and not letting things linger. We kind of pride ourselves in every maintenance request is handled within 24 hours or less. If you're paying for a service when you're a tenant, right? You want a premium service. So we try to make sure we provide that for our tenants. That really helps with tenant retention, is just, building that relationship of doing what we're supposed to do, right? Showing up every day.
Hey, rent-to-retires, this winter deal with a different kind of snowball, the income snowball. Tanisha Souza at TARDIS Wealth Strategies has been helping people build their own income snowballs for 20 years. Start small, grow big, and some people even make work optional in just 5 years or less. She and her husband did it in under 2. Tanisha literally patented the process and wrote the book on it. Check it out at creatingyourincomesnowball.com. If you're ready for a new favorite kind of snowball, visit renttoretirement.com/TARDIS Wealth and claim your free strategy session today.
Yeah, I definitely want to dive into management, Steve, but I want to first, I just want to make sure people understand the power of using creative financing, some of these 5% down options. Let's talk about a typical deal. So you said, I think it was $135,000 is your average, 3 or 4 bedroom, single family house, B-class neighborhood that you guys have fully renovated, that you lease and manage for the investor, making a truly turnkey property. So I just want to run through some numbers. What do you think that $135,000 house will rent for? Roughly,
if it's a 4-bedroom, probably like $1,250.
So you're really close to that 1% rule. In fact, that's one of those things that people throw out from time to time, and it's kind of a rule of the past, unless you're like in D or F class areas where and you need to have 50% in reserves for expenses and things like that. But my point is this is about as close as you get. This is about as close as you get to a 1% rent to price ratio in a decent blue collar, middle class housing, B class housing on a home that's been fully renovated will be positive cash flow, no matter what type of financing you put on it. And contrary to popular belief, actually has double-digit appreciation, or has historically shown that, right? It shows strong appreciation, especially over the past 2 years. Guys, on a $135,000 house in the Midwest, having a 10% appreciation, that's per year, and that will fluctuate over time. But if that's performed that way over the past couple of years, likely that's going to continue, or at least continue strong appreciation. And why that is, I think, in my opinion, is because that's still about as affordable as it gets. That's about as affordable as it gets in the U.S. right now, is low $100,000 price points. Like those really don't go down, right? Those are pretty housing is only going to go more expensive from there. So that's really, really important to think about. But what I want to talk about now is a 5% down loan option. So on that, we'll just use that $135,000 house that's renting out at $1,250 to $1,300, whatever it is. If you're putting 20% down on this house, that's $27,000 down. That's crazy, right? That alone is a low down payment, relatively speaking, to where most of us live throughout the country. So to be able to buy a quality asset that's cash flow positive at whatever, $300-$400 a month net at $27,000 down, like that's giving you a very good cash on cash return. Likely a double-digit cash-on-cash return in addition to double-digit appreciation. So that alone is a very strong investment. But where this gets really creative is for people that want to buy more properties and really expand their portfolio and be creative, or have more limited capital to still get into an investment. We know that this is really the only market where you can use the 5% down loan options with these local credit unions. They don't lend in all states, but they do lend in Ohio, and they do lend on Steve's properties. So I just want to run through these numbers so everyone's aware. So if you put 20% down, that's $27,000 down on a $135,000 house. If you choose a 5% down loan options on a $135,000 house, that's $6,750. So think about that for a moment. You can buy a house that's been fully renovated for $6,750 down. Now there's some additional closing costs, so maybe round it up to $10,000 or $12,000, whatever the case is with closing costs. But that's crazy to get an investment. Now, again, if you're only putting 5% down and you have a loan for 95%, in most cases throughout the country, it's going to be negative, significantly negative cash flow. We know that's the case on new construction, at least because of the rent to price ratio. Steve, on your properties, what's been very interesting and what a lot of our investors have done is been able to either have break even cash flow or even slightly positive, because it's so attractive there with only putting 5% down. So that's really, really attractive. And to take this a step further, we have a lot of people that are taking advantage of the accelerated depreciation tax benefits using this 5% down option. So if you were to put 5% down, with closing costs, call it, $10,000 or whatever the case is on this $135,000 house, which is probably break even or slightly positive cash flow, which likely will have 10% or greater appreciation year after year from what we've seen, especially as the market starts to pick up, which is starting to do now as interest rates continue to lower. If you were to take, and we're using the assumption we're back at 100% bonus depreciation this year, which we fully anticipate. Our cost segregation studies usually come in around 30% on houses. So on a $135,000 house, you do accelerated depreciation at 30%. That is $40,500. That's 30% of the 135. And that would be what you would be able to take if you're either going, if you're able to qualify as RE Pro or doing other creative things to qualify for this. So as running the accelerated depreciation, putting $10,000, roughly $10,000 down and creating a $40,000 tax deduction on a property that's appreciating likely in double digits, and that will be positive cash flow. Like if it's not today, eventually it will with rental increases. Yeah. That's a no-brainer, right? That makes all the sense in the world. I just wanted to run people through that because we have a lot of people doing that. And I think now that we're back at 100%, or we will be back at 100% bonus depreciation, I'm saying that very confidently. I think this is something people need to start thinking about. So, Steve or Adam, you guys have any additional thoughts on that?
No, that's I've sold the one guy who's bought several houses with us, and he's done I think 3 of them like that, and we rented him even a little bit over projection. He's cash flowing $100 to $150 and only put down 5%, which is crazy.
Looking for an edge in real estate? For over 30 years, RealSource Residential has pioneered research on real estate cycles and market timing. They don't just follow trends, they identify them with analytics to pinpoint high-growth markets. RealSource Residential offers access to invest in prime multifamily opportunities where underperforming properties are transformed to unlock value and maximize passive income. Visit www.realsourceresidential.com/RTR to subscribe for real estate insights, market reports, exclusive opportunities, and tools to grow your wealth with confidence. RealSource Residential, where experience meets innovation and investors come first.
When you run your ROI, your return on investment, and you factor that in, and you factor in the tax benefits and if you wanted to be, even conservative on the appreciation, like that's where you get into that 300-400% ROI. Like that is possible. You just have to be creative, and understand the numbers. And of course, we're here to help you run through those if you need some assistance. But this is cool stuff, right? Like there are some pockets in the Midwest that are very attractive investment markets that I think now is a crucial time to pay attention to, because if this appreciation continues, like it likely will, because again, real estate's not getting any cheaper in the U.S., especially when you start out with these low price points. Like it's important to get in early on this upward trajectory, right?
And it's also important to remember at these price points here, you talk about a 10% appreciation. Well, why is that even possible? Because, if you're talking a $130,000 house, you're talking about a $13,000 difference, which is really only like a $3,000, down payment increase for people, which, yes, whenever you're down at that, maybe at that income level, it's a little trickier, but it's nothing huge for people, right? Like they're not having to come up with an extra 15 grand to make up for the 10% appreciation that happened in a really high priced market. So if you want to check out Steve's properties, there on the website. And not only that, we've taken the courtesy, and on his pro formas, you'll see a link to the 5% down pro forma that's there. You can click on it. It'll take you to a new one that has the same thing there. It's a really good options. We've got probably 4, 5, 6 of them up on the site right now. There will always be more coming because, like you heard, we've done a lot of deals with Steve. We love his team. We're going to keep doing more deals with Steve and his team. So, Steve, is there anything you want to leave people with before we wrap it up here?
No, I just thanks for having me on, guys. I always appreciate talking about the Akron Canton market. I know it's one of those hidden gems, and we're definitely seeing a lot of good things happening here with rents and price points and things of that nature.
Well, Steve, you're our longest standing partner. Both, you both manage in-house. You do an excellent job on the rehab. Mainly, you get the investment side of it. You're an investor yourself. I think maybe, Steve, before we wrap up, if you could tell a little bit of your story, being a school teacher to now a real estate investor, like that's something I don't think we share enough publicly. And I think people are really inspired by that. Like real estate has changed your life. And I think it's really cool to see that. And I think it allows a lot of people to really connect with you in that regard. And you've helped a lot of investors over the years. So, we love working with you. We love the market. And just real quick, I love going through the numbers. So before we tell your story, let's think about the appreciation side of this. $135,000 house, 10% appreciation, which has happened over the past 2 years from multiple data sources. That's $13,500 per year, right, in appreciation. You can put $10,000 down on this house, which using the 5% at $6,750 plus your closing costs. It's 10 to 12K, call it, right, down on a property, and you have $13,500 in appreciation. That's over 100% ROI. In fact, it's greater than that. Just I want people to think about that for a moment. Right now, you don't realize it until you sell the house, go through a 1031 exchange, do a cash out refinance. But appreciation, that's not speculation if it's proven over the past. We know house prices go up over time. So,
are you ready to take control of your financial future? UDIRECT IRA Services helps you unlock the power of self-directed IRAs to grow your wealth your way. Whether it's real estate, private lending, or alternative investments, they provide expert guidance every step of the way. Take action today. Schedule an appointment with one of their self-directed IRA experts. Open an account and start investing in what you know best. And don't forget to grab their book, A Bigger Pockets Guide, Self-Directed IRA Investing by Karen Hall, now available on Amazon. Your financial freedom starts with UDIRECT IRA Services. Visit the letter U, Direct IRA /rent-to-retirement to get started today.
Anyways, I just wanted to run through those. Tell us your story. School teacher to real estate investor real quick, Steve, and wrap it up.
Future to real estate investor. So 2013, I graduated from the University of Akron, got my teaching degree, got my first job, and I bought a duplex, and I was house hacking. And then I bought another duplex. And then it's really ironic. I bought a turnkey rental in a city called Maple Heights. Found out it wasn't so turnkey, right? Because everything I bought at that point was great, made money, no issues. Month one, the furnace went out, was older than I was, So kind of ironic. And then cross paths with Zach Lemaster, I think in 2018, 2019. Did a few houses while I was still teaching, providing these turnkey rentals from some burrs that we had going on. And then Zach really helped coach me through, how to get from doing one or two at a time to, we have 60, 70 houses in progress. So, I mean, without Zach's help and guidance to get me from doing one or two houses at a time to managing, 400 plus units that we've done turnkey rentals for, which was amazing. So you and Scott, I know, walked me through a lot of stuff, and I really appreciate that. Definitely changed my life from, being a full-time school teacher to I haven't taught school in over 4 years now, and full-time real estate investor doing 100 plus flips a year, plus keeping 10, 15 rentals every year. So it's just snowball effect, right?
And probably 10xing your income at least, right, from where you're at. So, I mean, that's the power of real estate in a relatively short period of time. I talk about this all the time for people. And now, like, you're a success, and thank you for the shout out. I wasn't, encouraging you to say that,
True.
but I mean,
you spent lots of hours on the phone, emails, calls, texts with me.
but you also took the initiative, right? Like, so you're one of the people that takes the action. You started out as an investor, and now you're one of our top partners helping other investors do the same, right? And you're an investor yourself. And so I always talk about real estate, how powerful it is, because you can create a significant difference in your position, not overnight, but certainly not over a lifetime, right? In a few short, dedicated years, if you really just dive in and do what Steve did, like, real estate can change, right? And you start out building that foundation. You understand real estate. You don't want to jump into flipping 100 houses. You don't start there, right?
No.
But you start there with a few rentals. You understand, like, you build a foundation, and then the sky's the limit. So, Steve, that's awesome, man. And I just always inspired by you. So I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. Well, like we said before, if you want to check out Steve's properties, head on over to renttoretirement.com. You can see the inventory. You can set up a time to call and talk with one of our reps to see how you can, get in the best position to buy Steve's properties, whether that's with 20 or 25% down, or if you want to go the 5% down, we can talk through all of the available options with you. That's at renttoretirement.com. And as usual, if you have any questions, please send them to podcast@renttoretirement.com, and Zach and I will answer them in future episodes. That's podcast@renttoretirement.com. Really appreciate the time y'all spent educating yourselves today. We'll talk to you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching the Rent to Retirement YouTube channel. Check out some of our other videos, like this one, or this one here.